Good morning, everyone. Another breakfast. Hey everyone, welcome back to Radical Geek YouTube, part 2 of repurposing our corned beef leftovers. Thought that real quick I'd show you a general throw together a breakfast hash. There's really almost nothing to it. It just takes a little bit of time because things have to heat up, but it's a really great way to utilize leftovers. And while I chat, I'm going to go ahead and warm this up. I've got some bacon grease that I've saved off in a little container. Just going to toss that in the pan to get melty. Looks good. Hashes are no fuss, no muss kind of thing. It's literally something to throw together. It's meant to be a heavy, hearty breakfast to get ready and go out and do your manual labor. It's a way to use up foods that you had maybe leftovers. Usually you don't start from fresh. It's also meant to use up things that are maybe past their prime or you've been eating it for a while. But it's usually a root, a vegetable. Traditionally potatoes, but if you're keto, you don't eat potatoes, or maybe you don't have potatoes, it's not necessary. A root, a protein. So you can have any kind of hash you want. You can have a beef hash. You can have turkey hash. You can have chicken hash. You can have a salmon hash. You can play with the flavors, use what you want, mix and match. And then the other thing would be a green of some sort. Sometimes it's leafy green. Sometimes it's some leftover collard. Sometimes it's some mushrooms and onions. It's all very flexible. So that's what it is. It's all mixed together, and then you have a couple things you can do at the end. I see my bacon grease has melted and gotten all nice in the pan. In my case, I'm following the same theme I had with my roasted, and I'm going to take some radishes that I have sliced up. We keep these on hand because you can fry them up, or you can bake them, or you can have them fresh on a salad. It's kind of a handy little vegetable. It's not the lowest in carbs. It's kind of what I would consider a maintenance vegetable, but they are pretty handy. And I'm just going to wing it. That's the thing with hashes. You just sort of wing it. Got a little sizzle, so I turned it up just a smidge to get that going. I want to throw a good amount because they do throw off some water and shrink. And I'm not going to eat all of this by myself. I'll take some up and throw it away for a second meal, or stow it away, not throw it away, for a second meal, or someone else in the house will be like, ooh, and grab it. But I have way more radishes that my pan can accommodate. So back to the salad bag they go. They're going to sizzle up over here and get nice and soft and fried kind of just like you would with a regular potato. And you can, if you have the patience to dice it up, dice it. If you want them to be faster and not quite as big, you can grate it. I just threw them in my food processor with the slicer blade so that they are fast and sliced, and then they have a good amount of surface for texture and flavor. While these cook, I'm also going to add in some garlic paste and some very finely minced onion. And one escapee radish is going in the pan. So you just throw the whole thing together. And I'm not adding salt. That's going to be up to you. You can salt to your taste. Also, this would be where if you wanted herbs, you would add your herbs. I am not, because my corned beef is already very salty and flavorful, and it was cooked in a lot of herbs. Now, I do have here some black pepper, some finely ground mustard seed, and some UC Biber for pepper flakes that I have ground into a powder that came from flat iron pepper. I think that that's a pretty good flavor profile here for getting everything going. That's plenty for this particular hash, because for the greens, I still have quite a bit of cabbage left over. I'll show you in a minute. Oh, there we go. So I have like a whole giant bowl full of cabbage. And so I'm just going to throw cabbage in there and just continue my whole St. Patrick's corned beef and cabbage sort of theme. Instead of having it all nice on a plate, it's going to be all cooked up into this hash. But the radishes take some time to cook. And so that is why it's going to wait till the end, because it's already cooked, and you don't want to make your cabbage mush. You just want to warm it up a little bit with the other stuff. So that's already pretty flavored, and like I said, in the corned beef, which was also cooked with some other radishes and a bone broth, and since it's brined in salt, is already very, very salty. I do have a couple eggs for the end and some finishing salt to throw on top of that. This is Redmond cherry smoked salt. I like the cherry the best. A lot of people like the chef's blend the best. They have a hickory, real nice. If you're not familiar with Redmond products, they're an awesome salt company based out of Utah, and their stuff is really good. They do not iodize their salt, so which is good, because we make a big deal about needing iodine in our diet, but technically the iodine from an iodized salt, your body does not necessarily absorb as efficiently as you might need it to. So it's actually better to have uniodized salt if you're keto, to increase your salt intake, but add your iodine in from other things like your foods. Just so you know, the cabbage is actually a great source. Your radishes are an excellent source of iron and iodine. So you're in a good path there, but you can always buy a supplement if you find you need it. You don't have to run out and buy a supplement. Recently someone mentioned iodine deficiency, and then I saw like online everybody rushing out and buying iodine and starting a supplement. Don't do that. Don't take supplements and things just based on what you hear on the internet. Go to the doctor's office and get a lab workup to see if you're deficient. Yes, there are signs, like if you have a lot of hair loss, but also remember that if you live in the United States, and I just noticed my background is looking all weird and fuzzy, same light that I use every day, except for I'm wearing a blue shirt, so it makes the lighting go weird. Oh well, you guys will survive with my less than ideal background, as will I. I'm gonna have a quick sip of coffee. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, don't add supplements without checking to see if you need them. And that's the same for anything. It won't necessarily harm you, but do we know? And if you don't need it, then you're just throwing good money after bad. So I highly encourage you to work with your medical professionals. I know that we eschew a lot of medical professionals for their lack of nutritional experience, but this is something that can be worked out with science. You can clearly see in your labs if your iodine levels are low. You can see if your iron levels are low. You can see if your selenium levels are low. It's just a matter of a blood draw, and insurance will cover it much of the time if you have a concern about deficiency, and your doctors can do that. Now, if you haven't shown any sort of symptoms and your doctor doesn't want to recommend it, then there is a chance that your insurance won't cover it, and you're better off going to Own My Labs or a LabCorp and buying it on your own on the side. Find some discounts. There's plenty of YouTube doctors and stuff who carry that. So lots of options there, but definitely don't just do stuff because we say it on YouTube. You definitely want to keep on top of your minerals level, but you know, be cautious. It's a pretty good chance that you'll find that you do need it, but there's also a great chance that with the way we eat ketogenically that you don't. Iodine deficiency is not a given. Flushing out salt, yeah, that's a given. So yes, you need to do your electrolytes. Almost assuredly you need more electrolytes, but on the fly thing. Okay. The radishes are getting soft, and instead of solid white, they're looking translucent. I actually want to take these pretty far and let them get almost, get that brown sort of look. So it'll be a couple more minutes. But now that they're soft and getting that nice coating from the little bit of bacon grease I put in there, my next step is to go ahead and sprinkle in this seasoning and start get it worked around with the radishes. Let me hold one up so you can kind of see. Well, it still looks kind of light, but you can see how it's starting to get more see-through instead of a solid white. It still looked white on the screen to me. I'm not sure how it looks once the video is produced, but because what we see on the screen is not what you see out there. Anyway, so hash is really like a farmer's origin kind of food for being out and going and working in the fields, because you throw it together very early morning. It's also a cowboy thing. You know, again, out there, you threw your food, your dinner on there, and it's still good in the morning. And so you're just gonna put it together and fry it up before you get out there and are putting all your work for the day. So, but it's also just a really great. So if you are a fan of breakfast or breakfast for dinner or whatever, it's a great way to use some foods up in your house. It's also, because it's nice and hearty, it just makes a really good solid meal. Did I break down the macros? I did not. Sorry. I kind of just I'll do it on my own later when I know how much I've eaten and I paid attention. But I don't worry about it too much for my first meal of the day. I do track my stuff periodically. Sometimes I track religiously when I feel that I'm just like off kilter, because I need to make sure that my ketone levels are high for my seizure control and all of that stuff. So sometimes I do need to pop in there and track, but I'm not trying to lose weight. And again, most of my recipes here, they are maintenance recipes. So maybe you would only use a little teeny bit of vegetable if you're sticking to a strict 20 grams of carbohydrates total and all of that kind of stuff. You'd want to be more mindful of your quantities of radish. But again, this is a large quantity. This is not one meal for me. It's probably two. I'm going to say it's probably 2 meals, one for me, one for someone else in the household, whoever gets to it first. Yes, we have a first come, first serve household here. And since I cook, I'm first. So I'm going to give this a little pause and let these continue cooking, sip on my coffee, surf the internet for a few minutes, make my daily 2KK post, and I'll come back when these radishes are finished and we'll throw the rest of it together. So happy slicing of your radishes if that's what you're doing. Other things that if you're keto that you could use is you could use a little bit of sliced rutabaga. You could also use zucchini, although zucchini gets very soft and kind of falls apart, so questionable. You could, mushrooms are a fantastic base, even though they're not a root vegetable. Usually I like that for my add-in. Turnips, finely diced turnips work well, but again, watch your carbohydrate counts with turnips if you're keto. They're great though. They provide a nice texture and flavor. All of those are excellent substitutes. I'm just a fan of, right now, I'm a fan of the radish. So I don't know why, because there are times when radish really turns me off. So enough blabbing for the moment. Let me just, I'll tilt it so you can see. And then when I get it finished up, I'll tilt it again so you can see the more browned and the where I like to take it before I add in the other items. So I'll be right back. Hey everyone, here we are. I've got my radishes about where I want them. They've shrunk a whole bunch, as you can see, and I'm starting to get little brown bits at the bottom of the pan. And let me grab one of these, maybe. hot, of course, but I have chef's fingers, so you can see how it's getting like a little browned potato-y sort of look. Now, I say potato-y sort of look, just so you know, full disclosure, radishes do not taste like potatoes. I know that you'll see on the internet people saying it tastes just like potato. No, it fills the role. They do taste delicious, but does not taste like a potato, and that's okay. You don't need it to taste like a potato because it's still delicious, and if you appreciate it for that, that's what's going to be the big deal. I had to wipe my fingers. So here's the next part. I've split it all up around the sides. I would turn my heat down just a smidge. Get my corned beef here and try not to spill leftover corned beef juices everywhere. Hooray, we did it. And I'm going to put the corned beef in. Oh, that nice sizzle. That's my favorite thing. And you see I was very generous with my corned beef. And all I did was I took my slices and I had pre-diced it up into little pieces. It will sort of fall apart, so do keep that in mind. That's okay. That is 100% totally okay. Set this over here. Put that down. Give myself a little stir. And now I'm going to go ahead and scoop in some of my cooked cabbage. So it can also get warmed up and stirred in and moved about. Use your judgment how much you're going to want in yours. There's no set prescription or recipe for your hash and how you construct it. Now, I will say, though, that because my cabbage was in with the corned beef, there's lots of whole peppercorns in there. There's mustard seeds in there. There's coriander seeds in there. So, again, that's adding and building to the hash seasoning. One more scoop as we enjoy our cabbage. But that's good. Throw that in there. Oop. My two devices here. We'll just give this a little stir around to get everything mixed together. And you'd think with those big chunky pieces of cabbage that it would be overdoing it, but no, it folds right in. Everything gets mixed nicely. It shrinks up a little bit more than it already was. And it just gives you a nice, delightful heartiness. And as you can see, when I said this was not a single person serving, so I would have extras. There you can see it right now, how it's definitely not a single serving. I filled my whole little saute skillet. And if you're wondering, I just didn't feel like using the cast iron today. Initially, I had planned to go out to the Blackstone and throw this together. It would take like half the time, and it would have that lovely outdoorsy sort of flavor on it. But it is pouring, which means no camera. And so, you know what, though? Not everybody has a flat top griddle outside, so you should know we can make it right inside. So you just want to let this get all warmed and nice together, and the liquids from the corned beef and the cabbage to kind of cook off a little bit so it gets a little bit crispy. And I'll show you the rest of that in a second, because the next step is to let it rest up while you cook your eggs. And I can tell you about the eggs. You have options, lots of options. And that is, you can pull all of your stuff to the side and throw eggs in the middle and then cover it with a lid and steam it all together. You can take your egg, beat it, and scramble it and mix it all together. Or you could scramble your eggs on the side and then put it on top of the hash. Poached eggs are awesome on top of hash. So you can do all sorts of things. I've opted to just fry up a couple eggs. I've undecided whether I'm going to do them over easy, over medium, or basted, or sunny side up, or just kind of a combination of them. Probably just a quick fry because it's getting later in the morning. I'm hungry and I have a lot of errands to get done before I run off and get my hair cut, and then we have a Zwift bike ride later. So yeah, the hearty breakfast is going to be really important. And just, you know, when you use the fresh corned beef, it does break up and get all fine and small, but it does not get that tinned aluminum canned corned beef flavor. So don't worry about that. You're not getting that. It will be every bit as delightful. The other thing you can do is if you wind up having leftovers of this, I know, leftovers part 3, maybe we'll do that video too. Maybe I'll prevent somebody from eating a couple of it, and then you take it and you can turn it into a little corned beef fritter. So then you've got, like, you know, your 3rd day of leftovers, and it's sort of like that Thanksgiving turkey, only it's amazing and delicious. People don't like leftovers, and I think a lot of that is simply because we are not as creative or as ambitious in our cooking endeavors. So, you know, I like to make sure that I show that off. At any rate, my hash here is just about ready. I'm going to just give it one quick little high-level fry off, give it a stir to make sure it's good, and then we'll do our eggs and serve it up. So, I was on another live stream last night, by the way, the Hungry Horde Friday Night Feast. They're awesome fun to hang out on, and but I mentioned my live stream that is going to be tomorrow night on Sunday, and that I was going to make the keto musubi, which some of my subscribers agreed that we should continue our little spam theme, and I find it to be quite hilarious. So I'm going to do that. And I noticed a few people didn't know what musubi is. So just so you know, musubi is something that they have in a Hawaiian area, and it's kind of like a little hybrid fusion food. They usually have a rice and then a sweet glazed piece of fried spam molded on top of it. It looks kind of like a sushi, and then it's wrapped with a seaweed wrap. So we're going to keto-fy that and enjoy ourselves with our little fantastic, fun little play on that. So, you know, I bought the spam so we could have those spam balls, which didn't turn into spam balls, but they were still very tasty, etc., etc. So, just some fun cheap things that you can do. And by the way, that's the other thing. This is extremely economical. So if you're on a budget and you are able to procure some of the corned beef on sale, you'll be in great shape. And a lot of these dishes are very filling and bulky and don't use up a ton of ingredients. And so it doesn't cost a lot. The corned beef where I was, you got the brisket points for $2.99 a pound. So you could take those points and you can stew them up and have lots of leftovers. You can smoke it and turn it into a sliceable pastrami. Very flexible, very economical. So that's an ingredient to stock up on. I highly say if you can go for it, I definitely would, because it does last many, many meals. So it's definitely one of those things. So my hash is what I would call done. Turn the heat off. So you can see it's got that whole hash look to it. Your radishes are still in there in flat pieces. Whoops, fell off there. So you can see it. You can see the cabbage is holding its own in there, even though it has gotten very soft. And then your corned beef has also gotten that hash sort of texture to it. So there's that. And then I did tell you our next step, which I gotta clear the spatula off just a smidge. I'm gonna cover this up so it stays warm while we quick do our eggs. You know, eggs, oh goodness, I've spilled and made a mess over here. Let me just grab that real quick. Guys, why didn't you say something? Maybe you didn't notice. Anyways, clean off my little camp stove here real quick. There we go. That's better. Later we can sanitize it before we use it again, but for one meal, sometimes things happen. So what I've done is I've got a little blob of butter in here so that can moisten up the pan. I need to get a new little pan because it's starting to get a little bit warped because I abuse it and misuse it. But for this purpose, it's absolutely fine. All my eggs will slide to one side. You compensate and move it a little. Some of it's also the table. There we go. So I got my butter nice and melted. And let me just crack my eggs. A little scattered now because I'm getting hangry. But I think you all know how to cook eggs. But if not, this is just your standard fried egg. You put some fat in there. You put your eggs in there. And you watch it so that the top turns white. Right now it's translucent. You can bring some of your butter up over the top a little bit to help the whites. If you are very particular about your whites, bring some and break the white, but being very careful not to pull the yolk or bust the yolk. But you can spread those just a smidge to help them be thoroughly cooked. If you don't like a little bit of the snottiness in your eggs, but they're very easy, and you just give your eggs a minute to solidify enough so that you can flip them. My tops are still a little watery. I can't quite flip them yet. Also, I brought too small of a pan down. I should have brought the larger one. That'll make it a fun little bit of a challenge. But you just slide your eggs on here and boop, flip. Grab this one and flip. And there you goes, your nice and over easy eggs. Give it a second to finish off cooking. And I'm actually going to just simply turn off the heat right this minute because they will finish from the residual heat. Have a sip of coffee. Move this to the side. Scoop up some of my hash onto the plate. Like I said, you don't got to be stingy. Enjoy your meal. Looks like after all said and done, I'm going to say I have 3 servings. So that's actually quite hearty. You can see here. And all I'm going to do is lose track of my spatula. Bring my eggs over. Move this so you can see. Nothing like being a little awkward first thing in the morning. You just slide your eggs right over the top. So all of that delightful egg yolk, when you cut into it, will spread into the hash. Don't forget your butter. That's the best part. Don't lose your tasty, tasty butter. And as I said, a little bit of finishing salt. And there we go. It's hard to see the eggs. Maybe it's a little glare, but you can see how it all sits on the plate, just like your traditional hash. So, and of course, you can't cook something on the internet and then not taste it, because that's just weird, because then it makes your food not seem appetizing. And let me tell you, I have been waiting for this. So I'm just going to cut right into the egg so you can see the delightful yolk running. Gets right in there, just like a restaurant hash. Perfect. Dig right in. Don't be sad. It's a messy food. If you're the kind of person who doesn't like your food to mix, hash is not a dish for you, because your food needs to mix together. That's part of it. It just is like a sloppy, messy food. A lot of people have toast. You can have toast with it if you want. I got dirty. Of course I did. You can have a slice of your egg bread toast. You could saute up and fry up a little bit of an egg life wrap, or any keto tortilla. You could make one of the flax tortillas. You can make a chaffle, would be delicious with this. Once you add the chaffle, though, man, you are getting up there in like your OMAD territory. So here we go. It's so good. I can't even, you guys. It's so tasty. Zero regrets. And it's so good that it makes me want to go and buy up all of the remaining corned beef. Only I bought what we needed. And I bought a set for the freezer. But, you know, you can only spend so much at once. Oh, it's delicious. All right. I'm going to go finish off my breakfast. Enjoy yourselves. See you tomorrow, Sunday. And I'll say see you tomorrow, Sunday, but technically I'm not going to post this until like Wednesday. Just one of those crazy cadence things. So I'll see you all soon. Don't forget, if you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button and then the little bell icon so you're notified every time we upload or go live and all of that fun YouTube stuff. And I will talk to you soon. I hope you have some amazing hash, and I hope that this was remotely helpful to you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.